Welcome to Live Unashamed, where we pause the show and invite members of our team to talk vulnerably about their own recovery, things they're learning, the resources that are actually working, and what it truly means to live unashamed.
Welcome to Unashamed, Unafraid. We're here for another Live Unashamed episode, and the first item of business is James' cool new shirt. You want to tell us about your shirt, James?
And this is my cool old shirt. I had this for a minute, yeah. Yeah, this is my Unashamed to Tell My Story, period. God wrote it.
I like that.
Shirt.
Love that, man. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Figured that was a good shirt to wear to an Unashamed recording.
Weird. I wonder where we get that name from.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So, guys, what are we talking about today?
Well,
I forgot. Oh, wait, no. Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I actually we talked about it 2 minutes ago, and I forgot to.
Because we went through like a whole bunch of different ones.
you
What
told
are we
me,
proud
Sam,
of?
that we were talking about what you're proud of in your recovery journey.
Oh, that's hilarious,
Yeah.
because as someone who's in recovery, I forget to be proud of myself
Yeah.
pretty often.
You forget to do
How
the-
fitting.
Huh. So you forget to do the self-compassion.
I do.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is one of the keys to becoming unashamed.
Yeah. Something I liked recently, and I don't know if we'll air this podcast before they hear the previous one, but we just recently interviewed a guy named Mark Burden. He talked about how one of the keys to recovery is seeing, like, I don't know the word is, I'll just say the word anchor points. He uses like a
Okay.
climbing
Sure.
a climbing analogy, where instead of every time you have a relapse you drop all the way back down to the bottom of the wall, you're like, oh yeah, no, I just slipped and I caught myself.
Yep.
But you have anchor points, and those anchor points are like, oh, I've recovered from that thing. Like,
Yeah.
when I talk to my significant other, like, I'm not so reactive to that, and I can have compassion for the way that she's feeling. Or
I can have compassion for myself.
I went through
Right.
something really, really difficult the other day,
I
and
slipped, and it was painful because I fell a little bit,
yeah.
but I didn't fall all the way down to the bottom.
Right. And so these anchor points where we catch ourselves are these moments of like, hey, I can be proud of myself for that thing that I learned in recovery. So I just wanted to talk about some of those things that have happened for me.
Great.
I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts too. I had to name the thing that I'm most grateful for or like proud of in my recovery journal. Recovery journal. I do have a recovery journal. My recovery journey. It would probably be the fact that I don't feel like God hates me anymore. I don't feel like He is upset with me when I make mistakes. In fact, I just really started going on dates with this girl, and I really like her, and we've gotten close really fast, and like we just have a really open relationship where we talk about things, and you know, like when I disclose to her that I'm in recovery from sexual addiction, like the way I showed up in that relationship or up in that conversation was unbelievable. It was like this, instead of being like, well, like, yeah, like I don't, instead of being afraid and timid and like tone of voice,
Going to it in shame.
yeah, there was no shame. It was just like, hey, so I just want you to know that this is something that I'm dealing with right now. And I walked her through my journey, the last 2 years, and prior to that, but mainly the last 2 years of like, this is where it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I turned to it, because I learned how to cope with it that way when I didn't really feel like I had better options. But I'm learning now that that's not something I want to have in my life. And here's what I'm doing to overcome it. And here are the specific like shame messages and traumas that have pushed me back into the addiction and back into the addiction to the point where I didn't even feel like I had a choice at times, you know? And then I was able to tell her, like, I don't feel like that anymore. I feel like I have a choice. And I feel like when I relapse, it's because I haven't been intentional in my life, and I've made small choices to like distance myself from the things that are working. And like, oh guys, that conversation was unbelievable. And she's a rock star, and I just admire her. She's been through a divorce, so she gets pain. But like, I just haven't ever had an experience like that where I was able to show up with so much compassion for myself in a situation where I could have felt so much shame. And I'm proud of myself for that.
Good for you, man.
Yeah,
You should
man.
be.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've done a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's nice to see that, you know, just to be able to be like, I don't hate myself anymore, and I know God doesn't hate me, and it just changes the way that I interact. So,
Yeah.
I would say that's the foundational, for me, was like the foundational aspect or key to recovery. That was like, that laid the groundwork, that put the foundation in place upon which all the rest of recovery could be built. Was I had to get past hating me and believing that God hated me too.
So when did you first get to that point, though, where you were like, hey, I can look back and see I'm making progress?
Well, I remember the first time even hoping that God didn't hate me was like, my first boot camp. But to where I actually got to the point where I actually believed it anymore, it took years. To be honest, it took years to stop hating myself and believing that God, actually just loved me. Took a while.
Well, and I think that's so significant because when you think of shame, and we're living in shame,
Yeah.
we hate ourselves, we attack ourselves, and we're so negative toward ourselves, and that's how we know it's shame too. Is like it's all about the identity and
Yeah.
and that's how it attacks, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're like when everything started shifting is when you started to change your identity
Yeah.
of who you were and understanding really who you are. And one of my favorite books is Atomic Habits, and in there James Clear says true behavior change is identity change. You might start a habit because of motivation, but the only reason you'll stick with one is that it becomes part of your identity. And I hear that and I'm like, holy crap, that is like every bit about recovery.
Yeah.
Because it's just like I would not be the person that I am today had I not let go of this shame script of who I was and that I'm this worthless piece of shit that has destroyed my family, not even just my family, but other families. And I've put my whole life and my family and multiple families through the ringer on all these things and just hating myself for doing all this damage. And to really kind of stepping into, not kind of, but really stepping into who I really am as God's son. And that I'm loved. And I deserve to be loved by brothers, by my wife, by all those people around me, and deserve to have support.
How long did it take you from the time, Chris, that you seriously started recovery, which was, like 18, 19 years ago?
I started recovery in 2007.
Okay. It's about 18 years ago. How long did it take you from the time that you got serious about recovery to start being able to look back and see something like that, where you're like, dude, identity change, and be proud of yourself?
Oh, I think it was years.
Really?
Yeah, it was years.
Same.
It was well. I think really when I started stepping into, I started making some changes, but I didn't realize what those changes, like why it was affecting me so much, and I was actually making some really good progress in my recovery. And then I went to Warrior Heart Bootcamp, the very first one in June 2009, and that like changed my whole identity. It like changed and made me see myself for who I really am. And that was a trajectory that took off in my life, like took off in so many aspects of my life.
Yeah, that was a pivotal thing for me to change the spiritual trajectory. Well, just the trajectory of my whole life. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, warriorheart.com.
I think totally. Yeah, you should go. Another thing that I think I became proud of early on in recovery was when I started to learn to be really transparent and vulnerable.
Yep.
That's hard.
That was something that I picked up pretty early on, and but was really proud of it and actually really enjoyed that aspect, particularly with my wife, just letting her into my emotional world
That's awesome you enjoyed it, because I did not enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because I was so comfortable with lying and being truthful was not very comfortable for me, and I didn't like it. I was like, if I want to make changes, I got to be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, to me, it wasn't just about like lying or telling the truth. It was just really letting her into the emotional landscape of my life as I experienced life. You know, as I'd be like, yeah, I went to lunch by myself today, and that made me sad because I usually like going to lunch with people, and sitting there in a restaurant all by myself, that brought on sadness for me. And just being able to just talk through that, the emotional things that I was experiencing, that kind of transparency. Whereas before it was just sort of, I kept everybody at more of a distance, and I didn't let them into my emotions or my feelings.
Yeah.
So that part early on I enjoyed. Being honest about slip-ups I did not enjoy.
Yeah.
You know, didn't enjoy that part of the transparency. But just to letting myself be more deeply known, I did enjoy that.
I totally do enjoy that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally, 100%.
Well, you know, when you were talking about Warrior Heart, I thought about a pivotal point for me in Warrior Heart, which was the first time that I ever opened up to God, truly and sincerely, about the deepest and most private emotions that I had.
Mm.
I'm so proud of that moment. Chris was there.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, we cried.
yeah, we
We cried a lot,
times
man.
1,000. I've never cried like that in my entire life.
Yeah.
That was the first time where I fully.
Welcome
It's
to
just like-
Bootcamp.
I know. I was just like, God, like, this is how I really feel.
Yeah.
It's been so hard for me my whole life. Trying and trying and trying to earn people's love. And especially trying and trying and trying to earn your love.
Mm.
That was so hard. And I like told him about it, and I was like, it's so painful.
Mm.
And I feel so alone. And I've been so beat up and battered by the people in my life. And I feel like you left me all alone. And I told him everything. I told him how I felt about him. And something unlocked inside of me that day.
Yeah.
It was special.
There is power in that kind of emotional
Yeah.
vulnerability and honesty and transparency. Yeah.
I was so proud of myself that day because I felt like for the first time in my whole life, really, to the fullest extent, I was like truly myself in a moment,
Mhm.
ever. It was one of the it was just one of the most important things that's ever happened to me, and I was proud that I had the bravery to do that because it was like, and you'd never done that before, you'd never flexed that muscle, and it's like going to the gym for the first time. There's a reason why people don't stay at the gym. You know, it's like, oh, cool, yeah, it's January 1st, I'm gonna go, right? But it's intimidating.
Yeah.
And so you just cancel your membership and you stop going, right? I'm just proud of myself that I did. I showed up and I kept showing up and I have kept showing up. It's made a big difference.
Yeah. I think
By the way, thanks for seeing me, Chris. I saw you crying over there and I was like,
well, and
this guy gets it.
it's we talk about this, right? Like I end up crying on all these, but even when James was talking about that, and even just him saying, you know, I was at lunch and I ate lunch by myself, and it just kind of made me sad. And I know he was just kind of making an example, but I'm like thinking at that moment, I'm like, I've never gone to lunch and by myself and never been sad about it. I know that, but I know that there's so many people out there that are hurting so bad because they feel alone or whatever, and it just got me. And then you start talking about this, and it just got me. And then I'm like, and then I'm like starting to talk about the pivotal moment for me. One of the most pivotal moments that I'm so proud of is my wife looking at me, and she was like, Chris, I know there's more. And if there's more and you're not ready to tell me, then just tell me that you're just not ready to tell me, but there's more. And I'm like, okay, well, I remember right where I was standing, look on her face, everything. I was standing, she was sitting down, and I'm leaning against the door, and I look at her and I'm like, yeah, I was drinking. And she had a look on her face. And she's on, no. Chris, I know there's more. And whatever you have, I can take it. And we can figure it out. And at that moment, I looked at her and I'm like, I was so damn scared. I was like shaking because I was like, you know what? There's more. And we'll talk about it when we go meet with Todd, our therapist, on Tuesday. This is a Friday. I'm like, there's more, and we can talk about it when we go on Tuesday. And I made that decision to be like, yep, it's my time to be honest. I've never done it in my life. Only disclosing the things that I got caught for, and that was it. And so, that is one of the most proud moments of my life. Not just recovery, but in my life.
Proud of you too, man.
I'm glad you decided to be honest. It's awesome, man.
I think we're just going to leave it with that. Guys, thanks for listening today. It's important to remember that you can be proud of yourself for recovering. You don't have to be stuck in the shame. You can remember what a great job you're doing.
Be proud of the hard things that you do, man.
And the successes that you're having.
Guys, if this was helpful to you, share this with someone else who needs to hear it. You can find us on social media at Unashamed Unafraid. You can get access to our bonus content and become an outsider on unashamedunafraid.com. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, continue to live unashamed.